Hey everyone, I'm Aishwarya. I'm a product manager. I have been a product manager for over 5 years now, made a bunch of roadmaps since. So, if you're a product manager, or even if you're familiar with product management, you would have heard of product road mapping and how crucial this road mapping is to the entire product development process, and also how important road mapping is in determining the overall success of the product. So it might seem a little daunting to us, at least in the beginning, in the earlier phases of the PM career, as to how to approach road mapping, how do we know if you're doing it right, and so on and so forth. So in today's talk, we will take a stab at breaking down the roadmap into its crucial chunks and really picking each of these chunks and, pondering upon what all does it entail and what are these pivots, how do you approach each of these chunks, and also maybe touch base a little bit about what works best when. So yeah, let's get started. So product roadmap is this bridge between your high-level product strategy and execution. So essentially, you're breaking down the product roadmap into these executable chunks against a timeline, and that's pretty much your roadmap at a high level. So execution is something that is derived off of your product roadmap. And when you're looking at your product roadmap and when you are going through from one time window to the other, you would be able to see the product evolution with time. And also that outlays the product vision to some extent. So a meaningful roadmap is one that has clear goals and objectives. Now, we just discussed how product roadmap is, followed, is something that is derived out of your product strategy. So it's really important to have the product strategy based out of clear product charter goals and objectives, so that your roadmap also turns out pretty meaningful and optimal. So a good product roadmap is built on a sound product strategy. Another important aspect. So if the product strategy is, for some reason, if it's not well thought of, if it's not holistic enough, then all those gaps associated with the product strategy will start to seep into your roadmap, and that would really, mess up with the roadmap quality and what you are trying to achieve. Excuse me. A meaningful roadmap is time bound, obviously. So it's one thing to break down your tasks, and the other thing to, really timeline them, figuring out when to do what, and also a little bit of how. So that's pretty much how, that's all the roadmap entails pretty much. So a lot of prioritization seeps in at this point, right? So precursors, this is a little bit of, this is more of a checklist to kind of ponder upon and think through before hopping onto the roadmap really. So it's essentially a top-down approach. You would start by thinking about, what space the organization is in, what are its goals and objectives, who are its users, what does it do to the users, what are its short-term goals, long-term goals, right? And what is the strategy, of the organization in order to achieve those goals and objectives? And also a little bit about the phase in which the organization is in, the phase, like whether it's in the user acquisition phase, or whether the organization is, optimizing for user engagement or monetization or retention, whatever it is. So having this context about the organization will help, you know, uh, establish the product charter that you're working on more meaningfully. The next thing you would do is to kind of, figure out what your product charter could do, could accomplish in context to your organization's goals and objectives. Right from there on, you would position the charter, derive its goals and objectives, and also form, a formulate strategy to some extent, and hopefully figure a North Star metric. The North Star metric for your charter should be something that's measurable, that reflects what your product is doing, and also is important enough in the organization context. So that's pretty much what a typical roadmap looks like. You have a theme going on over here. You have all your tasks laid out against the theme, and there is a timeline associated with each of these tasks. So that's pretty much what a typical roadmap looks like. So here, as we can see, the theme aspect is pretty much giving structure to the entire roadmap. You're able to group your tasks, you know, through each of these themes. So that's giving a lot of structure, and all those tasks are grouped against each one of these themes. So now what we're going to do is we'll pick each of these aspects of the roadmap: theme, task, and timeline, and then dive into each of these and see what all it entails, how to approach each of these, and maybe some things to keep in mind maybe. So theme, what exactly is theme doing to the roadmap, right? A theme here, as you can clearly see, is imparting structure to your roadmap. It's essentially letting you pretty much group your tasks into each of those sections so that it's easier for a PM to even articulate it to, a stakeholder. For anybody that is consuming the roadmap, it gets easier if you have your task grouped by a theme to understand what's going on, and get a better context out of it. So deciding theme is important because it not only is, structuring your roadmap, but is also dictating how easy or difficult it is for your stakeholders going to be to consume your roadmap. So here are some of the approaches or possibilities we could dwell on to pick up a theme. So the sub charters of a product. So sub charters of the product as a theme. This is something that works really well when you're operating in a platform heavy charter. So by that, what I mean is typically this kind of charters have a lot of engineering team. Like usually these engineering teams are also broken down into pods. So each of the subcharters pretty much align with your pods. So having your themes, your subcharter as theme, what it essentially does in this case is it aligns each of your theme with a pod. So it becomes really easy, especially when your roadmap is, meant for your engineering team's consumption. It becomes really easier for them to, understand what's mapped out and, consume and share the thoughts. The other option would be functional units or some abstracted rendition of user stories. Now, what I mean by that is, so again, this is something that would directly align with user requirements. So typically most PMs go for functional units as their themes. And in order to derive that, what you could do is pretty much start off with, understanding what the user requirements are, lay out all the user requirements, and maybe excuse me, and maybe try and see if there are any themes emerging out of the user requirements. So that would pretty much translate to your functional themes, right? It will be really easy to articulate what you're doing if your roadmap is, if your roadmap theme is your functional theme, and most PMs pretty much go for it. The other consideration could be business units. Now, there are some product charters which are heavily, tied with the business unit they are operating in. So what I mean by that is your product charter, the charter requirements, they change significantly with each of these business units. So in such cases, it makes sense to kind of look at business unit as a pivot and, kind of build maps, themes out of it. User segmentation, if you're using user segmentation as a pivot, that essentially, again, aligns your themes with your market segments pretty much, right? Usually, for instance, if you are a product manager in an e-commerce industry dealing with the supply chain of the product, those are usually heavily tied with, a lot of physical infrastructure, which takes time to build, right? So their product charters are usually tied with the market segments. So in such cases, segmenting, your themes reflecting user segments would make sense. So that's pretty much about the themes. And let's see how you pick a theme. So the choice of theme is something that is heavily dictated by the nature of the product charter. That's because, whatever theme you're picking is either helping you articulate, it's going to help you articulate what you're trying to do with your product, right? So it really is crucial to pick a right theme. And hence, the choice of the theme is heavily dependent on nature. Having said that, you might also want to take into consideration who the audience are, and also what the intent of the roadmap is to some extent, and also maybe some org practices. Some orgs might want to ensure there is some kind of uniformity across, product teams. In such scenarios, you might want to keep those aspects into consideration. So that's about the theme. Now that we have the theme, pretty much laid out, the next aspect would be, to put in all the tasks, lay out the tasks against the timeline. Now, what are these tasks? What constitutes a task, and where do you confine the task? How granular should it be, or how abstracted should a task be? So these are all the questions that keep popping, right? When you think of, task in a roadmap. So how granular should it be is a function of who the audience are and the intent of the roadmap. Really, it really is a function of, who you're trying to present. For instance, if you're trying to do a leadership review of your roadmap, then it really makes sense to have your roadmap in a very high level way, like an L0 kind of a roadmap, where it reflects the key launches and is not really going into the nitty-gritties of each of the tasks and launches, because in leadership reviews, you really wouldn't get a lot of time to go and review each of the launches in detail. So an L0 roadmap or a high-level roadmap would work really well in such contexts, as opposed to, let's say, you are dealing with a prioritization conflict of sort. Then in such cases, you might want to show the breakup of a launch and, the multiple tasks, and where you're getting blocked, where you are seeking, conflict resolution. So in such cases, an L1 level of roadmap typically makes sense. In general, again, as a thumb, you don't really have to go really granular with tasks in a roadmap document. The reason being, you would end up, hashing out the finer details of, execution or any such aspects in the sprint planning or anything later on any which ways. So it's not necessary to have everything hashed out in the roadmap document. Yeah, task nature. So another one thing that really dictates how efficiently the roadmap turns out is having an understanding of, the various nature of tasks, and also having the sense of demarcation. So essentially, when we speak of launches, we have multiple tasks that are lined up, to make the launch happen. So understanding what each of these tasks are and what kind of task nature each of them have will help in, effectively segregating them, number one, and also kind of, seeing what can go in parallel versus what needs to be sequenced, which one's a blocker. So that really helps in mapping out tasks in a much more optimal manner, and also hitting timelines in a much more optimal and realistic way. So again, your roadmap need not have like a breakdown of all these tasks. It could very well, compress some of these, but having the, idea and that whole understanding that, there are different task natures involved is something that goes a long way, especially in, getting to the right planning and timelines. So yeah, so once you have the tasks laid out, once you have the theme sorted and the tasks laid out, I think the next aspect would be to kind of get to some kind of a rough estimates of how long it's going to take, and that would eventually like translate to timelines. So on the timeline front, one of the things I really wanted to touch base was around launch phasing and launch versioning. So if you see these two items, right? In the top item, we are essentially delivering feature X. We are launching feature X, but it's taking a whole of 2 quarters to get it done. So it's essentially a big fat launch happening at once. As opposed to what you see at the bottom, here you see that we are getting started with a POC, then there's a version 0 getting rolled out pretty much, and then there's a version 1 that's being worked upon. So here, as you can see, the first one is pretty much like nothing is happening through 2 quarters, and at the end of 2 quarters, you're launching something big. In the second, as opposed to the bottom item, there you have essentially broken down the launch into phases, right? So there's a V0 launch, the version 0 that is going live at some point, and then you're resuming with working with the rest of the requirements. Now, we'll talk about why launch phasing is important in a minute, but before that, how do you do the launch phasing, right? So the most common approaches to, break down your launches are either you break down your feature requirements. So if your feature X has a certain requirements, think about how we can, break down this requirement in such a way that there could be a version 0 that could be packaged and shipped out, right? The other way, so it's essentially what you're doing is you're breaking down, you're minimizing, you're looking at your functional requirements and trying to break down and divide it into versions. That's one way of doing it. Your developmental effort is getting broken down, right? Whatever you're doing in the initial phase will lead up to version 0, and then you resume the development of the next version, right? The other way to do it would be to kind of limit your feature launch to certain regions or tiers of customers. Now, this makes sense, especially if your product is dealing with a lot of scale issues, or it requires scale sustenance, because these systems are really complex in nature and they take time to build. So what you could instead try and do would be to kind of limit your launch to a certain capacity of users, maybe by region, maybe by tiers, or maybe any other pivot that makes sense, and then see how it goes. In the meantime, you could build the whatever is required to sustain that scale and then release it progressively. So why is launch phasing important? One of the things it allows you to do is it'll help you bring down the uncertainty. Now, what we mean by that is, so PMs operate in varying degrees of uncertainty, right? By uncertainty, what we mean by this is all your tasks that you see in the roadmap or anything, at best, these tasks are all estimates. They have a certain impact estimate in mind, right? But we do not know what this impact is until this product is made live, or until the users actually interact with the product. We wouldn't really have the actual sense of what the impact is going to be. So when you're breaking down the launch into multiple phases, what it allows you to do is have an insight into how the user is reacting to the product. Are they adopting well? How are the user metrics? How are the business metrics? So that gives you some kind of an idea, a more deterministic idea as to how it's going, so that you could take those learnings and do any course correction if needed. If the results are not as expected, you could always do a course correction and de-risk any future launches. If it's going well, then you know what's working, and then invest more of it in your future products, right? It also exposes a lot of overestimating issues, or maybe there could be potential cannibalization happening between the features. So most of these get overlooked, so they also get exposed when you are versioning your product. So overall, I think phasing your launches is a better idea, because it gets you a better control over your entire product through the time. So it's always a good idea. So whenever possible, try and version your product. And yeah, so we have gone over road mapping in the scheme of product management, what its precursors are. We broke down the roadmap. We discussed, what the roadmap themes could be, what the nature of tasks are, and its importance in terms of timelining. We discussed about launch phasing. So these are all, areas that help get started and get rolling with the road mapping. But remember, road mapping is a continuous process. It is something that you constantly update and iterate on. What I mean by that, so maybe you would iterate more frequently in the beginning and possibly less frequently later on. The reason being, essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to pull all your user requirements and data points and try and build something that really, really works given the user requirement. And as you move through the launches, you're learning more and more about your user requirements. So you would want to kind of, include all those learnings into your future products. And hence you keep iterating your roadmap periodically. So that's all we have for today's talk. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck with building some kick-ass products, and stay safe.